title of today's message is Knowledge, Power, and the Heart of Man. And first I would like to jump right in with the scripture, and let's go over to Daniel 12, just to start us off. 12 verse 4 of Daniel. It says, "But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book to the time of the end. Many will run to and fro, and knowledge will be increased." Now, we've talked about the scripture plenty of times before, and how in the end times knowledge is increased. We've talked about how for thousands of years we were pretty much regulated to the most innovative things being the wheel and sails, really. If you really think about it, we didn't really have very much innovation. Well, you come down to the past 2 centuries, and now all of a sudden we're going to the moon, we're cloning things, we can genetically modify different organisms, we can put a human ear on a mouse's back, we can make babies glow in the dark if we want. There's just so much that we can do. We could have live streaming. I could be sitting here and talking to someone that's on the TV. I mean, that was something that, when I was a little kid was, so futuristic. You could talk to someone on the TV and stuff like that. That was supposed to be a fantasy when I was growing up. Well, within my short lifetime, it became a reality. We have the power to control the weather, to control earthquakes. We have so much power, so much knowledge right now. We can cure diseases, we can create diseases, we can even edit the human genome. Okay, there are so many different things that we are able to do right now, and we have such an explosive amount of knowledge at this point in time. And the scripture's telling us that at this particular time, it's sort of a sign, because he tells us that in the end days, this knowledge will be increased. Now, the thing is, Yahweh doesn't have a problem with our knowledge. If you really think about it, I can't think of a single scripture in which Yahweh says, don't learn of this, don't learn how to do that. The things he tells you not to learn is certain attributes, but there's nowhere that I can really think of where Yahweh tells you that he's displeased with knowledge or understanding or the things that we are able to do in the world today. I can't remember a scripture where Yahweh says, don't learn how to make it rain, or don't learn how to do this, don't learn how to do that. Here's what Yahweh has a problem with, hence my title, Knowledge, Power, and the Heart of Man. How we use what we know. If you take a car, and you are trying to build up this car to be a precision machine, and you give it a whole lot of horsepower, a really big engine, but you don't give it any handling. Well, when that car goes, and you try to take it on a road course, you're not going to do very well. You might be very fast, but you're going to be crashing into the walls here and there because you can't turn. You have no self-control. You have no, for lack of a better word, versatility in your vehicle. Okay, that's what you're going to have. Now, mankind, what we've done is we have increased greatly in our knowledge. We've increased our horsepower, but where's our handling? We've increased our knowledge, but where's our wisdom? There's a difference between those particular things, and we're going to go to a few scriptures to sort of look at that. Let's go to Proverbs 1, verse 7. The reverence of Yahweh is the beginning. It says here the first requirement and the chief part of knowledge. That's called a prerequisite when you're in college. You want to take this class here, but there are other classes you have to take before you can get to that class. This is what it's talking about. What happens if you skip the prerequisites? If you're trying to take calculus, but you haven't had pre-cal yet, you're going to be lost. If you're trying to take advanced physics, and you haven't done general physics, you're going to be lost. In general, you're going to end up lost if you skip over your prerequisites. Now, in this sense right here, there's not a single human being on this earth that is capable of skipping over that prerequisite without hurting themselves. If we get all the knowledge there is to get, but we skip that prerequisite of reverencing Yahweh, we're sure to mess something up. Sure. If you look at our history, we learn how to make fire. Well, we burn people. We sharpen things. We stab each other. We learn how to have ballistics and firearms. We shoot each other. We learn how to split an atom. We bomb each other. We learn how to fly. We use that to drop bombs on each other. The bomb we learn to make, we go and we stick it in one of these great flying things that we have, we drop it on each other now. Everything that we've learned to do, we've learned to use it in a way that is serving the self and oppressing another. We've learned how to bolster produce, make these big, fat, wonderful vegetables. Now, is there a problem in that necessarily? My personal opinion is not really. The problem is why and how. That's the problem. Because I fully believe that there's easily, we easily have the technology to make big, fat, wonderful vegetables that, sure, you might have stuck some stuff in it, but it might not necessarily be harmful stuff to human beings. Because you know what? If the gods came down here, they could do that too. So I fully believe that we could do that. But here's the thing. We put something in it for two reasons. One, I want this thing to be super big so I can make money. And two, around the back door, I put something in it that I know is going to hurt you later. Because when you're hurt, I have a friend who's a doctor over there. Friend can make some money off you when you're hurt. So with what I do, I'm going to make big money because I have all these giant fat tomatoes. So you feed this to the people, but you know it's going to make them sick anyway. Does Yahweh have a problem with you knowing how to make this thing grow big and fat? No. But what have you done with that knowledge? Now, if you said to yourself, hey, we got all these starving people, you know what would help? If we found a wholesome way to make all these vegetables bigger and fatter to feed more people. That'd be one thing. Because then, in whatever you were doing, you would find a way for it to not hurt people. We've got really smart people on this earth. We can find a way to do that without hurting each other. We can, but they don't care. You can find a way to split an atom and not use it to blow somebody up. You can find a way to do that. But what's in our hearts? What did Yahweh say to Cain? He said the desire to sin is with you. Now, if Cain is way back then, he was a descendant of Adam and Eve. Well, that means if we are all descendants of them, that we have his genes as well, probably. Most of us probably have that in us somewhere. That means the desire to sin is within us. That's where our problem comes in, because we try to skip over the reverence for Yahweh. Scripture says nobody wants to go to Yahweh. Nobody wants to. The natural man doesn't want that. The natural man, when he learns how to do something, he wants to do it for himself. If you look at kids, they get a hold of something, theirs. When they're sitting at that little table with the yellow chairs, they can't even talk yet, but they snatch from the other person. They grab their binky and they shove it in their mouth instead, because I want it. As soon as we learn how to use our hands, we use it to take things for ourselves. As soon as we learn how to throw, we learn to throw at other people. From the youngest age, this is what we're learning to do. It says here, only fools despise wisdom and instruction. Instruction. What is instruction? Instruction comes down to Yahweh's law. Yahweh's law tells us, do this, don't do that. Respect your brother, respect your mother and your father, treat this person the way you would want to be treated. Well, guess what? If we were to take all the great knowledge that we have, the ability to edit the human genome, the ability to create all these things, the ability to control the weather, if we took all that knowledge and we regulated ourselves with this scripture right here, the reference of Yahweh, before we did anything, we said, what does Yahweh say? Could there be a problem? If we would truly perceive and understand and consider what Yahweh says first, could we really have a problem? But you look at the world today, and we learn how to control the weather, and what do? We wipe everybody out with floods. We learn how to create diseases or how to stop diseases, but what do? We go and create a disease, we give it to everybody, they all get sick, and then we create the cures that they can come and pay to get healthy again. When we made them sick, and now we show up as the saviors. Oh, guess what? We have a new vaccine for you. And we hide some more disease in that so they can keep getting sick with something else and we can keep making money off of it. We're very intelligent people on this planet. We know how to do a lot of things. But everyone's using that knowledge, or everyone that has that knowledge, it just so happens that the people that get a hold of it are all the wrong people. It's all the wrong people that get a hold of this knowledge. They get a hold of it, and when's the last time that you can think of something that was scientifically revolutionary that actually ended up being used only for good? When's the last time you could think of something like that? If you really try to think hard. Everything that we've created that could be used for good, we've turned evil. Everything. It's not knowledge that's evil. It's not understanding that's evil. It's the human heart. That's the problem. If I have a gun and I am regulated by Yahweh's law, I'm not going to go around shooting people. But if you take that same gun and you give it to a person that has no respect of Yahweh's law, well, then you're going to have a problem. Because then someone's going to tweet something to him they doesn't like, and pa-pow, he's going to shoot them. And someone's going to take his chair at church, and pa-pow, he's going to shoot them. And someone over there is going to cut him off in the street, he's going to pull up to the house, and pa-pow, he's going to shoot them. Because he doesn't have the reverence of Yahweh. The reverence of Yahweh is that thing that gives your car handling. It's what makes it stable. Take that away. What do you have? Imagine a super fast car that has no steering wheel. Would you drive that car? I wouldn't drive that car. If you knew when you got into this thing, you hit the gas and that's it. You can't steer, you can't brake, you can't shift gears, it's just full speed ahead. There's that old show, comes on Boomerang, Wacky Races, something like that. And this guy with a mustache always tries to go and sabotage everybody else's car, stuff like that. That's pretty much what we got ourselves into. This honest manager is running around, sabotaging our car, and we think it's great because he's giving us all his knowledge. He's showing us how we can ramp up our engine and get all the greatest horsepower out of it. But at the same time, he's taking our wheels. He's taking our steering wheel. He's pretty much taking all the screws out, ransacking the entire thing. So we got this great, strong engine, but there's no control. There's no reference. Let's go to 2 Timothy 3. 2 Timothy 3, we're going to read in verse 7. It says here, always learning, talking about these men in the last days. They're always learning, but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Why not? Why can't they come to the knowledge of the truth? Because they're refusing to reverence Yahweh. They're refusing to take up that first part. It's like you're trying to graduate college, but you still haven't taken care of your basics. It doesn't matter what you do. Once you get up to that point, you've been in there 4 years, like, all right, let me graduate. Hey, you got classes you didn't take care of. So you can keep on learning. You can keep on taking classes, but until you do these ones right here, you're not going to graduate, dude. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how many more hours you take. If you don't have that prerequisite, you're not going to graduate. We're always learning, but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Now, let's look at the type of mindset that this is. It says, now as Giannis and Yambres opposed Moshe, so also do these men oppose the truth, men of corrupt minds. Reprobate concerning the faith, men of corrupt minds. And that's the problem. Because if you're trying to learn how to do something so that you can benefit your fellow man, then go right on ahead. But almost everyone's trying to learn how to do this and learn how to do that, learn how to control this, learn how to make that, see what happens when I put this and this together. They're doing it for them. How can I learn how to do this so that you can't tell me what to do? Because if you try to drop a bomb on me, well, I'm going to blow your island away with a monsoon. How about that? Because I can do that. And if you have a nuke for me, well, I've got 5 nukes for you, because we learned how to make them be faster and nukier than yours. Yeah. So, go ahead and try something. We heard about this guy over there in North Korea shooting off his missiles into the water, trying to scare people, splashing around. Okay, splashing around in the water with all his missiles. We got this knowledge. We're trying to intimidate each other with it. Everyone over there pointing missiles at each other. Cuba gets some Russian missiles, points them at the U.S. We didn't shoot them, we just pointed them. That's what little kids do. Get ready to beat each other up, start getting their rocks ready. And then I come in and they're like, we didn't throw them. That's what they're like, pointing their missiles at each other. We've got this great knowledge. What are we doing with it? We're fighting like children. I have one more scripture in Jacob 3. James 3 and 13. It says, who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by righteous conduct, by works done in the meekness and humility that comes from wisdom. It says, if you have bitter rivalry and strife in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. Now it's telling you something here. The very first verse we just read, it talked about a particular type of wisdom. And then it says, but if you have bitter strife and rivalry in your hearts. Well, if you just take those few words, they don't have to be in the same verses, but just look at them. If you have bitter rivalry and strife, then what do you expect to get out of all your knowledge and understanding? Because it's because of that bitter rivalry and strife that when I learned how to split an atom, I go to blow up my brother. Because we're bitter rivals and we have strife. That's the whole reason that we started trying to split an atom in the first place. Because of bitter rivalry. We said, well, we better figure out how to destroy them before they figure out how to destroy us. Bitter rivalry. The reason why when we learn how to create a disease or cure a disease, we don't really use it to help, we use it to hurt each other. Why? Bitter rivalry, strife. If that's within the heart, then the knowledge that we get is not going to help us. It's going to hurt us. Continuing on, it says, this wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, and demonic. For where rivalry and strife are, there is confusion and every evil work. A few things I want us to realize right there. It says, where you have rivalry and strife, there is confusion. Babylon was a symbol of confusion. When Yahweh came down and he scattered their language, it was the Tower of Babel. Okay? Babylon is confusion, but it also means the gateway of the gods, or the gateway of the demons. So they know that if these guys have their rivalry come in, and then it says, and every evil work. What are we just talking about? With all the things that we've learned how to do, we can alter people's memories now. We can go in and swipe a part of their memory straight out of their brain, and they have no clue. We can do that now. We've got all sorts of great knowledge. We can create machines that can begin to learn now. Yeah, we can do that. We can take the head off a human and put it on the neck of another human. We can do that. We can do all these amazing things with our knowledge. We do all these amazing things. But what has come of it? Every evil work. Because every turn we've made, we've done something evil with it. Every single turn we've made, we've done something evil. Why? Because of that rivalry and strife. Because of the heart of man. The reason that we were told not to touch the tree that's in the midst of the garden is because Yahweh knew we weren't ready for that. We weren't ready to touch that thing, but we did it anyway. Now we're even less ready, but we're still touching it. Or even if Adam and Eve weren't ready to touch a particular thing, and them touching it got them thrown out the garden, imagine us being so insignificant in comparison mentally to them. We can't even live as long as they did back then, okay? If you really think about that, if they were not worthy to touch the tree, why aren't we still touching that tree today? If we're so much less than them. Really, you got to think about that. With that corrupt heart, we have a corrupt heart, but we're full of guns. We've got all these weapons to use. We've got all this knowledge, but within our hearts, there's no love. Within our mind, there's no reverence of Yahweh. There's no consideration of what Yahweh says. So we can't go right. We can't go right. It's bound to go wrong because you have power, but you have no wisdom. We took advanced physics without taking general physics. That's why we're messed up right now. We skipped our prerequisite. We got all this knowledge, but we have no reverence of Yahweh. That's why everything's going wrong. It says here, the wisdom that is from above is first pure. Hiroshima and Nagasaki doesn't happen if we're pure. Pearl Harbor doesn't happen if we're pure. World War I doesn't happen if we're pure. None of that happens. Peaceable. None of these wars happen. We learn how to make fire. We don't burn each other. We have cookouts. Okay? That's what we do. You learn how to sharpen stuff. You don't go stabbing each other. You don't do that. It says gentle, easy to be entreated. Now, these nations, we are not easy to be entreated because one guy says something that we don't like and we put sanctions on them. And then when that happens, the other guy puts sanctions back on us. and we sanction each other until our economies crash. That's what we do. We're not easy being treated, are we? Full of mercy and righteous fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. That's a good one for the U.S. The U.S. goes and runs into every nation and messes it up, and then when I think it was Crimea begs Russia to come over, we say Russia is, being a bully. Well, that's hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. All those things right there that it said in verse 17, that's what we're lacking in our knowledge and understanding. We know how to do these great things, but guess what? We're not pure. We're not peaceable. We're not gentle. We're not easy to be entreated. There's no mercy. There's lots of partiality, though, because the guys that make all these vaccines for all these kids to take, they don't take it. They don't have their kids take it. They know good and well they're not going to take it. They know that. When Obamacare comes out, Obama doesn't get it. No. They don't want any part of all that stuff. No. Give it to the populace, though. We've learned so much. We have so much knowledge, so much understanding, that if we were to do things in the right way, we could really have dominion over this planet, and things would be fine. But we're not doing things the right way. No one's considering what Yahweh says. Everyone's looking to their own self-interest. Deuteronomy 12, verse 8 says, "Do not do as you're doing here this day. Every man doing what's right in his own eyes." Why? Because of what we have today. Because all these guys got all this knowledge, and what are they all doing? What's right in their eyes. In their eyes. In the heart of man. Knowledge is not evil. Power is not evil. But if the heart of man is not pure, then only evil can come